Sunday show presented to you by the Birdsall Law Firm. Before we get into it, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Before we hear from our sponsors at Birdsall Law Firm, got to shout out the LSU Tigers, LSU Lady Tigers, national champs, Angel Reese, right? That whole thing, ring her, all that stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. Sunday show, about to get into it. But first, before we get into it, let's hear from our friends at the Birdsall Law Firm. This podcast is sponsored by the Birdsall Law Firm, the official injury lawyers of Boot Crew Media. Birdsall Law Firm is a family practice that has been a staple in the greater New Orleans area since 1963. Specializing in automobile accidents and slip and falls for the past 60 years, you can trust the Birdsall Law Firm to handle your claim professionally while treating you like family in the process. The Birdsall Law Firm is located at 918 Poydras Street near the Superdome. Give them a call today at 504-523-5413 or message them on Instagram if you or someone you know has been involved in an accident. Be sure to mention Boot Crew Media sent you to get your free consultation today. Once again, you can reach them at 504-523-5413. Lito Chaz and Chris Connor joined the show tonight. Before we get into it, Chris, great show last night with Ross. That was an awesome recap. Let's start off with Lito because I want to get your thoughts. I think I might know your answer. What's been the biggest difference of the Pelicans over the last 2 weeks?
Man, there's a 7-foot guy that I think for some reason, I don't know if he was lost, but they seem to have found him, or they've found a way to use him. They remembered how to use him. Just getting him involved, it yields benefits towards the team. And yeah, man, he struggles defensively, but I think the Pelicans have been doing a better job of putting him in situational matchups with other, bigs, or when they play teams that they could beat inside, right? They could take advantage of the matchups. They've done that. I think also Jonas is a lot better passer than people understand that he is. So it's not even necessarily about him scoring. It's about him getting touches to fill out the game. It's been a lot of cuts and interior passes and connective passes that he's been making. And the other thing too, like we talked about this a couple pods ago, or maybe last week. Yo, a 7'1", 260, 70 pound dude, he set a hell of a pick, man. You know what I'm saying? And Brandon has been taking advantage of that a lot, whether it's, coming off the curl, shooting off the pick, or even just like bouncing it back to JV. Like, he's been doing a good job of that. I think the Pelicans also, like, movement wise, have increased exponentially. And they've been really playing a smarter brand of basketball. What changed? Man, Trey's growth. Trey's growth has changed. It's a lot of things that in a short amount of time seems to have they have working in their favor.
Chris, you mentioned last night, you talked about pace and that they're playing a lot faster. I've also noticed that, right? You're starting to see more. Brandon Ingram. Obviously, he's dropped 2 triple doubles in the last whatever 6 games, but he's rebounding the ball more, which then leads to him having the ball in transition going downhill. Has that played a major factor in what's been different about this team? Is Brandon Ingram and then also the pace of play?
I mean, that's a part of it. I think post Lakers game is when everything kind of just changed. You get embarrassed like that at home in a game you had to win. Now your back is completely against the wall. And it seemed like from there, even against, subpar talent, just the mentality changed. Just, now you see Jonas get more involved. Throughout the month of March, Lito was talking about Trey Murphy, but he played 35 minutes. We averaged 35 minutes for the month of March. That's a huge increase from, I think, where he's been at any part of this season. So you're putting the best players or your most important players on the floor. Another thing on Trey, and similar to Jonas, those guys have been more involved. So it's not just a whole bunch of ISO basketball that's got this team into trouble. Dudes kind of just looking like sometimes they just disinterested out there, just playing for themselves. Seems like something switched. I don't know, exactly who you give the credit to, but as a team, they got back to doing some of the things that worked well for them last year with this particular team. When Zion comes back, it's going to be a whole different situation that that you're going to have to work at. But what we're talking about with this team, it works best when everyone's involved. Brandon has the basketball and is able to attack. And you can have certain other, even a guy like CJ be more off ball and have an opportunity to attack in that way versus being more of a traditional point guard.
Yeah. Chaz, gotta get to you. Is this what you've been wanting to see from Brandon? Is this the type of Brandon you've been wanting to see?
I think far as the attacking the rim, playing a lot faster, getting to the line, going into not avoiding contact, I think that's really great to see. Still not enough 3-point attempts, but then again, I guess I can't really blame a person for sticking to what they do well. You know what I'm saying? If you don't feel confident in taking the three, it's just like, avoid it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Do what you get to your bread and butter and, make that happen. And that's what's been happening. I think to Chris and Lito's point, I think a lot of it started with the pace increase, playing with a higher sense of urgency. The wings are actually rebounding. Herb Jones's offense has been a bit of a revelation. Trey Murphy's defense has been a bit of a revelation, and doing things off the dribble, creating a little bit more for himself, driving, getting to the line, putbacks, et cetera, et cetera. Team is probably making a couple more threes than they probably should be making. And, to keep it a cool dollar, some people pulling the plug on the season, and you happen to be playing them at the time they're pulling the plug or at the time they're resting, back-to-backs, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, the number going to be the same on the win-loss column. So you need to take whatever win you can get.
Lito, speaking of Brandon Ingram, I posed a question to you today. Or you actually rebuttal, or you got back to me. Is Brandon? I said Brandon was playing like a superstar. Is he a superstar?
I think so. Let me say this: in the last 2 weeks, I have it's no doubt in my mind he's a superstar. In the last 2 weeks, he's played like an absolute superstar. I think if you would have asked me prior to with what he was, he was his output, I don't necessarily think it wasn't superstarish, right? This guy at this point, I've never seen Brandon Ingram like this before. And, I was all, as far as like the playoff run last year, he was incredible, but it's like he's taking it to another, he's better than he was last year going into the play-in.
Lito, can I cut you off for a second? Because I want to actually ask you this question. What did you mean by, his previous, right? Like, were you saying that he wasn't affecting winning, or was he wasn't impacting the game in multiple ways? What did you, I want you to kind of elaborate a little bit on that.
Sure. Like all of that. I think he was getting his numbers because Brandon is he can score, right? Like that's something that Brandon can do. That's what you know him for, right? He's a mid-range professional artist. That's what he does. That is a playoff shot. But I think the thing with the Pelicans is it wasn't holistically as a team, it wasn't converting to wins just based upon, I think, the usage. But like, shout out to Coach Mike Cyprian. Like Mike has been saying, the game has slowed down. So like last year when he came into that season, Zion was out, the game slowed down at a level. But now it's like the game has slowed down to him, and it's at a masterful level to where not only is the midi is there, it's always going to be there. He has the length and he has the athleticism to get a shot off whenever he wants to do it. But now he's seeing the floor. Like, you can't just send that double at him. You know what I'm saying? And
they did last night, and he picked them apart.
That's what I'm saying. You can't. I mean, you can do it, but like other players are reaping the benefits of Brandon's ability to see the floor. His game is slowed down to the point where it's like it's not even just the time. It's not even the passes. It's the timing of the passes. It's like he's in a pocket, right? And it's a 5-step drop, and he just feels the pressure. He knows when the defense is coming, and he gets the ball out at the right time. There was that back pick with her and Trey. Like he waited to the precise moment to throw that pass.
But can I talk about that for a second? Because what gets him open is the back screen initially, right? And that's to kind of towards Chaz's point too. He started to take a little bit more of contact, right, and embracing it a little bit more. and to set a really good. That's what Steph Curry does so well.
I
Everyone
literally
knows
have this on my phone right now. That's crazy.
what's that?
Crazy you mentioned that. That's the play he's talking about.
Yeah. It's a beautiful back screen, and then also, Lito, to your point, JV sets a hell of a down screen on Kawhi, and Plumlee is helping because Herb Jones is open, and that's the movement we've been wanting to see. Now, Chris, Lito talks about his passing ability. I've said this for a while now. I think Brandon's an underrated passer. I think he's an incredible passer. I thought last night, man, going over a double team, especially with Zubac, throwing it across court and hitting Trey right in the shooter's pocket where Trey pump fakes, takes the one dribble and lays it up, and then doing it again. But Trey Murphy made a ridiculous catch. he might have a future in the NFL. What have you seen from Brandon passing wise? Because I don't think it's talked about enough. His shot making is incredible. His passing's not talked about enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think dating back to his days in Los Angeles, like he's always been a really good passer. There were times, even like dating back to his rookie year and his second year, where I think specifically his second year, Lonzo Ball ended up going out with an injury, whatever year that was, second or third. But Lonzo goes out with an injury, pretty much done for the year, and Brandon's playing point guard. And out of nowhere, you're seeing the assists creep up and rise up, double doubles. He was on a really good run, and he got hurt. So, like, it's just the passing doesn't really surprise me. I think it's the passing with the bracketed coverages that he's getting. Like, it's the context behind the passing. Now it's not as he's not doing it as the second or third best player. Now he's doing it as the guy with the most responsibility on the floor offensively. And the coverages aren't changing. He's being trapped. He's been trapped a lot. I mean, he's looking at 3 or 4 dudes. It's all different types of looks that people are throwing at him. They're trying to be physical with him. But the knowing where everyone at the overall awareness, I think with some of these passes, the anticipation and the accuracy on them. Yes. He threw a lot of them cross court. Some of those could have went out of bounds. The passes to the free throw line that turns into a hockey assist, like those kind of plays, him putting together during this particular stretch, along with just kind of being back to what was big for this team last year, point BI. It's been great, and he hasn't really been turning the basketball over. He had the game in Golden State where he had 6 turnovers, but you're talking about 30, you're talking about 8 here, 11. I'm thinking in March, he averaged 30 and 7. And the turnovers for the most part were kept under control. In these kind of games right now, in which you kind of need all of them, it's good to see.
Yeah. 5 joined the show. How you doing, 5? I don't know if you can.
Damn, I was on mute. Yeah, what's popping, man? I'm good.
Good. I'm gonna get to you in a second here, Chaz. So I've also noticed, speaking of which, the ball's been more in Brandon's hands, initiating the offense, and also Herb Jones's hands, and a little bit out of CJ's hands. Have you liked that, where Brandon and Herb are kind of initiating the offense and CJ's off ball? I feel like I feel like the ball's been moving way better when CJ's off ball than when he's on ball.
Yeah, I think that's always been the ideal scenario. Speaking this offseason with Grubb, we talked a lot about Herb initiating the offense. It's unfortunate you don't see it much of it till later in the season when things are, dicey to say. But ultimately, with Brandon, who's always been a great passer since LA, to Chris's point, I think this is probably why you're seeing such a better brand of basketball, because you are taking the ball out of CJ hands, which, to his credit, it's playing hurt, and he's not traditionally known as a point guard. He's playing out of, quote unquote, out of position. So, I think that was kind of doomed from the start. But you're seeing again, you go back to, you're seeing people look for JV. You're seeing people get into the teeth of the defense, not swaying away from contact, getting to the line, knocking down their free throws. If I'm not mistaken, in the first half of the game, I think Brandon might have missed 1 free throw. I know Trey missed 2. And in the second half, I don't think anyone missed any free throws. So that, to me, that's like, that's what you do. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's how you get it done. You know what I'm saying? A game like that where every possession counts, because the Clippers didn't just go away. It took every possession, every trip to the line mattered. And I think they went and they definitely took advantage of that. And Brandon especially, because he think he didn't miss a free throw in the second half.
Yeah. Ross Show. We got a full show. Hey guys. Jarrett, get you in here. What do you question is Brandon Ingram's playing a superstar, right? Is he a superstar? Is this type of branding in the last 2-3 weeks a superstar?
Yeah, but I'm tired of waiting till the springtime to see it. I want to see this over, 82 games. Hell, if it's just 70 games, I'd be great with it. Like, I just want to see this consistently. We all know that Brandon can do this. We've seen this before. This isn't like an anomaly. No, we just want to see this over like a long stretch. I don't want you to miss 29 games for a toe. I really don't. I'm not saying that the injury wasn't valid. I'm not discrediting it at all. I just want you to be healthy and be on the floor so you can do this, because I don't think you suck. I think you can do this quite often. I just want to see this over an expanded period of time. This is year 7 for you. So, I think that's a little bit of the, when people step back from you, it's like, this is year 7. He should be entering his prime. He's not healthy. He can't stay healthy. But we know this is probable for you. This you can do. You can be this kind of person, be this type of player. We just would like to see it over, a full season.
That's well said. Yeah, Lito. So with JV, I'm sorry. So JV posted another double last night. What'd you think of him? Because Ross and Chris did the show last night, but they thought JV was a huge part in that game. What'd you like from him? Because you talk about defensively, we all know he's not the best, right? But he also does a lot of really good things that impact the game, and I think that gets lost in the whole defensive scheme and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, JV he's a high IQ basketball player. He's knowledgeable. I thought he was a little bit soft, honestly, in the first half. I think he rebounded well. As far as his just being more definitive in his finishing. I think sometimes he can be passive, which I get the fan base doesn't. They don't like that. You see a big man, you want him to dominate. But I think for him, dominating is different from how you see Zion dominate. Like JV he's gonna beat you up. Like Zion is gonna take the contact, go through you. JV is more of a wear you down type big, right? But he has, touching around the rim, he has skill. He's able to like we talked earlier, make these connective passes and do all these other things. And I just feel like for him, getting him in a rhythm, just being involved with the basketball, hey, look, as soon as he cross half court, let JV come set that pick, right? Let him. He does the thing where he he likes to do the dribble handoffs to whoever. And then, sometimes he.
Hey, I'm glad you mentioned that. I think it's one of our best sets where it's either Trey Murphy or Dyson, or you usually get a shooter, but it's either Trey Murphy, Dyson, Richardson's in there. It's a reversal to the top of the key. Sorry about that. I got excited. And then that slot guy down screens for the guy in the corner, whether it be Brandon. You've seen Brandon come off it a lot. I don't know why Jarrett's laughing. You then go back. I broke it down, Ross. We'll get to the next time.
Wait. Can you before I move on? I wanted to say a point about Brandon. You talk about we were talking about mastering the game, right? And to have, I think he was 16 of 23 or 17 of 23 like that yesterday. All tools, he attempted 3. He had 1 turnover, right? Which is the crazy part to me is when you think about that's mastery of a game. You made 1 mistake the whole game, right? But the thing I think if you dive deeper into the numbers, Brandon, I think since February 1st is his usage is 99. He's in the 99th percentile of his usage. He's at 32.7%, which is only behind Jason Tatum. And then if you go into assist stats, he's also in the 94th percentile. So he not only is he high usage, he's high efficiency points scored, high efficiency assists, and he's scoring at such a high clip.
Yeah. It's the dribble handoff hard to talk about on the play where Brandon turns the corner, then Trey pops back, and then JV dives. I lost my train of thought, 5. I'm just jacked up, man. I haven't seen you in a while. So let's get to the big question. All right, Ross, I'm starting with you. Let's get to the big question. If Zion Williamson, you're muted right now, Ross, just let you know. If Zion Williamson comes back this week, are you starting him or is he coming off the bench? We'll go Ross, then Chris, and then we'll delegate.
It's coming off the bench. It took me and Chris kind of talked about this for a while last night for a lot of different reasons. Mainly, I mean, the first game he has to come off the bench, I think, just because you've kind of got something built and you want to see what you have. Like, you know, can he go for long, stretches of time? What's the level of play like? Everything else. And then I think I would kind of play it by ear after that. But I lean more towards I would bring him off the bench from here on out, unless you got into like the middle of a playoff series or something like that, or you got to that first playoff series and you realized, but you know what, he can play 25 minutes, he can play 10 minutes in a row or something like that. But I think for what we're going to see when he does come back, I'd bring him off the bench.
Yeah, we'll go with Chris. What you got next?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Ross. I think that's just what's best for the team right now. You know, I think having another weapon off the bench is one thing. Having that kind of weapon off the bench, all things considered, I'm curious from this perspective, because Five made a good point about his injury and having him warm up before the game and sit down and coming back. I'm really curious the difference in that route. I mean, because he's gonna have to sit at some point regardless. So if he does come off the bench and we feel like that's an issue, I'm assuming that you have him on the bike for a period of time. I do want to hear Five's thought on that. But yeah, I think it's what's best for the team right now. I am worried if you put Zion back into the starting lineup. Number one, you have a question, and the person that you probably should be bringing off the bench. Like, President's not going to the bench right now. It's not going to be. It's not going to happen. So it comes down to two guys that are playing really good basketball right now, and you need them on, like, you need Trey shooting. He's your best shooter. If you bench him, and in that lineup, you definitely gonna have to use that with the way that Trey's playing. And then defensively, if you bench Herb, you're losing your best defender who has all his confidence going right now. So I don't know. And then that's outside of the fact that Brandon's playing during this stretch some of the best basketball of his career. I wouldn't want to mess that up with what the starters are doing right now. And that's no disrespect to Zion. We know he's a starter. I think in this part of the year, you only have a few games left. You don't have time to be experimenting, even with a generational talent. Bring him in off the bench. It's a clear need there. He's still going to get his minutes. He's still going to be forceful. And in some of those god-awful offensive lineups that are coming in off the bench, Zion's the only guy, no disrespect to anyone else, but he's the only guy that can probably make those look better than they should offensively right now.
Jarrett, before I get to you, I also wanted to talk about, I totally agree with you, Chris, because also I think rhythm and consistency, and you see Trey and Herb and Five, I think you agree with this too. They're very comfortable in their role right now, and they're in a nice rhythm, and I don't think you'd want to take that out, especially the last week of the season heading in the playoffs. But go ahead, Five.
Nah, I think, Chris, I thought about this today. There better be a bike. There better be the bike, like, right next to the bench. Like, he should, like, consistently just, keep it going, keep it moving. It better be like, okay, 5 minutes on, then you stretch, continues that blood flow, have a trainer pause massaging your tendons. Like, yeah, you gotta have that nearby. Like, you cannot allow Zion to get cold. You don't want that to happen. If you have that, then I don't care if he starts or comes off the bench. At that point, then it don't matter. If you're properly prepared. But we're banking on the Pels organization to be prepared for something like this. I just don't see it happen. So the other alternative is just to start him and then kind of do it later on.
So back to the starting thing, right? Obviously, eventually he has to come out of the game. So how do you warm him back up with a bike? But so he needs to be on the bike 5 minutes before he's getting back into the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think LeBron's done this. A couple of guys have done this. I mean, you've seen organizations put guys on bikes right next to the bench or in the alleyway. But that's what it's for. You got to keep these guys warm, especially with a guy with a hamstring. Like that's a big issue. You want to stay warm. You want to stay conditioned. You want to have that muscle stretch. Pause, God. You want to have that ready to go for a team. God, I know, man. It's happening. But at this point, I think the best and easiest one is probably to start him. That's just the easiest route to take. But that also hinders the guys like Herb or Trey. I don't want to see either one of them coming off the bench. I don't.
Well, we've seen Trey come off the bench, and we've actually never seen Herb come off the bench. Have we? We've never seen Herb come off the bench.
I mean,
right?
early on, but again, you need a defensive guy like Herb, and he's confident in his shot, and he's been able to set screens and play make, because you really don't have a prototypical point guard. So I think Herb is almost like a key piece. I don't know if he's more important than Trey. I'm not here to gauge that part, but I think they're both intricate. But at this point, I think you can live with Trey coming off the bench rather than Herb.
Yeah, personally,
I agree,
I was gonna let you go, Lito, but personally, I would bench CJ in my.
Listen, I told you this before. We all know what the right answer is. We know what the right answer, but what is the most conducive answer? What is going to be the actual answer that's going to happen?
Right. Lito, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, if that was an option to bench 3, then I'm definitely gonna bench 3.
Why is it? Wait, hold up. Why is it not an option? What is that? Why is that not an actual option?
Come on, Justin.
So,
I'm asking a question. I'm allowed to ask the question.
Go ahead, Five.
Oh, well, one, he's probably played more games than both Brandon and Zion combined. He's been there through it all. He's played hurt, right? He has a torn tendon in his other thumb. He's gone through the BS. He's tried to fix issues. He just got a deal done with the CBA. We could talk about that another time. There's just so much going on. And you're going to tell that dude that had to go through all that chose to come to New Orleans, I got to come off the bench because they can't stay healthy?
Pays a price to win. Pays a price to win. Go ahead, Lito.
Bars.
Spitting.
I feel like, so yeah, I mean, if 3 was an option to come off the bench, like, yeah, like that'd be cool, but that's not gonna happen. This is my thing. I think Zion needs to come off the bench for reasons of, I know everybody's like, that's Zion, that's whoever. But like, if Brian could come off the bench, Zion could come off the bench, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing too for me is like, you end up messing with guys' confidence. You end up messing with Trey's confidence, Herb's confidence. They got it going right now. I would rather them proceed to stay in their role and figure it out that way. I don't want to mess up that chemistry. And the other part of that is Zion gonna be Zion wherever you put him.
Yeah.
So
I think the only argument against that is really keeping him warm. That's it. There's no, for me, it's like.
But Five, can you keep him warm? Like, can you honestly keep, like, what does he do at halftime? He just stays on the bike the whole time? Like,
no, I mean, there's plyometric, not plyometric, but the leg warmer things that you can get. There's all kind of stuff that you can do.
Right.
The massager, they got the massager.
Yeah. But that's
just training. There's a training staff right there. Like,
but that's the thing. It's like, do you trust the staff to do what you think they can do? Like Sam and Gundy said it a couple times. These guys gotta answer for their crimes against humanity too, right?
Chaz, what you got?
Honestly, even if we could, I don't think I would bench CJ just because of how Brandon is playing at this moment. Context be damned, but how he's playing at this moment, I think it would take so much away from what Brandon does well and what Zion ultimately does well, because historically with those two, they don't really play well together. So in order to maximize both of them, I think that happens with Zion off the floor when Brandon's on the floor and vice versa. I think right now with Brandon, you need as many outlets for him to pass, to open 3-point shooters like a CJ, like a Trey, or even a JB or Herb occasionally. You just don't want Zion there clogging up the lane, especially if you got Zion, Herb, JV, and who am I missing? And Brandon. Like, I just can't see Brandon or Zion being maximized in that scenario. I think, and I don't know which Zion we get. Are we getting the Zion to start the season? Probably most likely that Zion.
Yeah.
Like the Zion who kind of was figuring it out. So, I think it's good for him to come off the bench, build his confidence up, go against the team's second unit, And again, man, it's some guys you really don't need to see anymore. So if Zion minutes gonna take away from a couple of those dudes' minutes, and I don't gotta see them again, I think that's just addition by subtraction. Like just we don't need to see them dudes no more. So let them come off the bench. I think.
Who are those guys? Who are those guys, Chaz?
Well, one of them a friend of the show. I don't know if you want me to say his name, but I'll say Dyson. And I keep it real, Larry. I don't need to see Larry no more. I don't need to see Larry at all.
He doesn't look 100%, but I mean I thought actually last night was pretty good. To me though, I don't really care who starts because 5. To be honest with you, it matters who closes. So who's gonna close with Zion Williamson? Especially now, you got to think with Zion and a minutes restriction as well. That's going to be coming too.
All right. Well, if you trust it enough, you would base it on the flow of the game. But with that being said, that's never the case because I saw a game where JV outplayed Larry and JV didn't close. So that's not indicative of anything. It's whatever the hell they have it set at. If they have it set where Zion's closing, yeah, he's closing. But if it isn't based on how well he's playing or how well the team's playing around him, because I watched that game the other night from the stands and I'm like, JV better be closing. And he didn't. He started the 4th and got to 6 minutes, just like always, and they pulled him. How? How do you watch that game and be like, yo, that man shouldn't be playing to close a game? So, yeah.
Okay. Ross, what you got?
I'm nervous that I just don't know what we're going to see from Zion. And that's the biggest issue for me is he going to have the stamina to be able to be out there during those crunch time, high leverage minutes? I think you probably continue to close with the group you have unless you get into those first few games that Zion can play and you're like, okay, wait, he's a lot farther along than I thought. I've just seen him come back from injuries and it's not always the best looking thing on earth. Yes, in short spurts, he can be very effective. Yes, he can still make a difference. And for me, that's where Zion fits in. Chaz just mentioned it. Like there's one lineup for sure, but really it's 2. And if you go take the minutes that those lineups have been playing that are just like desperate for an offensive player to come in and do anything at all, well, just slip him in there. And now you've got an effective player that you can sort of dump it to and kill some minutes and let guys rest or do whatever you got to do if you're in foul trouble. I don't know. I'm just not ready to say that like, oh yeah, bring him in tomorrow. And the dude who hadn't touched an NBA court in 2 months is going to be ready to close games. Like I think that's asking a lot. And I sort of think it's unfair to put him in that, spot. That's the same thing we've all been saying for 2 weeks now is like, if you're expecting him to come back and be a savior, you're realistic. Your expectations are unrealistic.
Yeah, slip it in there. That was Jared's face. Chris.
Oh wow, Cam Newton's son. All right. He's a lion. No, I was I don't know why, and I haven't looked this up as it came into my head here, but for whatever reason, Brandon Roy keeps coming to mind when I think about Zion coming back here, and only because I remember like Brandon Roy's final year basically of playing like actual ball before he went to the Suns. His last year, I think, as a Trailblazer, he was coming back from another injury, and I remember Portland was making a playoff run, and Brandon Roy came in. He came off the bench. I think he eventually came back into the starting lineup, but he came in off the bench for a good majority of the part into the playoff run. He was the franchise piece. He was the guy on that team. But it was at that point of the year, the injury he was coming back from, and just the flow that the starters had to even get them into the part of where they were at, it just made the most sense. And I think it worked out for them. They ended up, I think they played Dallas in a playoff series and ended up going 6 or 7. But B. Roy was important for that. I'm not comparing Zion and Brandon as players and that like from that perspective, but that's the kind of mentality that I'm thinking of at this point. We know Zion's going to be a starter. We 100% know. We know he's generational, but I think where this team is at right now, that just might be what's best towards wins and losses until we can get a chance to really reevaluate it. No pun intended. Toward him being on the floor and seeing what he looks like after a few games,
Lito, we'll go Lito and Chaz, but Lito, it's you can't really answer this question, but we did see him when we first started the season. Zion looked a little rusty, right? Coming off like that 10-12 game stretch. How long do you think it's going to take him now to get used to playing with this group of guys now? Because I don't think 2 or 3 games is enough.
It's not enough. I would have preferred him playing last week if possible. I mean, man, it's hard to say because, like, you and Five were saying minutes restrictions, and like you got to know the full scope of like how they plan to use him. And like you said, coming off the bench, start doesn't matter as long as he ends the game. But you got to understand it's going to be he's not going to be able to probably give his all on both sides. So he's probably going to have to pick a side to give maximum effort on. And yeah, man, I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. Like, truthfully, just because a lot is in the air. A lot of the situation is still in the air because we still don't have a definitive date of him coming back.
Do y'all, Chaz, you think he comes back Tuesday, Wednesday? What do you think?
To me, honestly, if they said he wasn't coming back, I wouldn't give a shit. Like, honestly, because I'm like, look, we ain't even supposed to be here right now. Like, this is like the Karate Kid at the end. It's a fluky ass crane kick thing. Some miracle is happening. Just take the small victories and just don't think about it too much. If he can play him. I don't give a shit if it's the game before the end of the season. I don't care if he comes back versus Minnesota. If he came back with one leg, he would be better than Larry and Dyson right now. So just wheel him on out there, and whatever happens, and then you reevaluate him during the season. But I'm just not that invested because all this shit is fluky to me. I can see them, being ended up the 10th seed, and I can see them going to the Western Conference Finals at this point. It's just like it's just a bunch of fluke, weird shit happening. If y'all would have saw the end of this Mavericks Hawks game just now, this whole season is a fluke. Everything is crazy right now. So like just get into the tournament and let the miracle happen. Like anything can happen. Like just get into the tournament.
All right, 5. Get in the tournament 5. Give me your prediction. Where we ended up last week of the year. We have 3 home games and 1 on the road to finish in Minnesota. They will probably be the 8th seed. Now that the Lakers are going to win this game, I'm guessing. I haven't really checked the score. But they'll be half a game out of 7th. I'm sorry, half a game out of 6th and a game out of 5th.
Like I said before, I'm sticking to it. They're not going to be in the play-in tournament. I think this team will either be 5th or 6th or none of the above. But so I don't 5th or 6th. Let's just say that. Let's just stay right there. 5th or 6th. That's where they are.
5th or 6th. Okay. Lito.
Shout out. We were talking about the tournament. Shout out to I gotta give a big shout to Skylar Mays for ending the Timberwolves in the manner that he did on the day that LSU won. That was big time. I mean, I've been saying 6, so I'm gonna stick with 6.
6. Okay. Chris.
I flip flop between 6 and 7, bro.
No chance of 5.
No, I don't see 5 because I don't see how Golden State falters. I think you would kind of need that to happen. I think you can get the Clippers, but the problem is that unless you tie, I think the Lakers are going to take care of business. I think the Lakers are your real enemy right now in this. So I think that now if Golden State falls apart, down the stretch, who knows? Which, like Chad said, with this season, it could happen. But I'm somewhere between 6 and 7, unless they win out. If they win out, they'll be a 6 seed.
So, do y'all think if they win out, they're automatically top 6 if they go 4-0 this week?
I think so.
100%.
Yeah.
What's 3-1 get them?
I just think you got to avoid tying the Lakers at all costs. Like you just don't even want to be in that scenario. I think no matter what happens, no matter who you beat, because the Wolves they almost like played themselves out of top 6 contention at this point. If you beat the Clippers, if the Clippers beat the Lakers, you good. like for the most part. You're pretty much good. But it's like, again, I looked at it. The Kings are on the first night of a back-to-back, and Memphis is on the second night of a back-to-back, but so are the Pelicans. We know Julius Randle is out. Is Brunson going to be resting around that time? And with Memphis losing today, it's like, do they kind of want to make sure that, they have their gears and everything in check as they're going into the playoffs? The Lakers still have to play the Suns. The Lakers are on a road trip right now, and they have a back-to-back. I think they play tomorrow. I think they play the Jazz tomorrow or something like that. I could be mistaken, but I'm between 6 and 7, to be honest.
6 and 7.
Yeah.
I guess I'll wrap it up with this. Chris, we'll start with you. Do you think that they can win a playoff series if they get in the out of the play-in and then in the playoffs?
Yeah, I do. I think that the changes that they've made has obviously boosted confidence and some form of team chemistry of just empowering others, right? Having other people be involved, and the players that we have been screaming have been important, that deserve a piece of the shine as well. I think for you to win a series, one will have to be there. But look, if you get into a series, let's say Zion doesn't return. Let's say something happens. I hope it's not the case. If it doesn't happen, could they beat the Kings in a 7-game series? I think so. I mean, 100%. That's the matchup. Memphis? I have no idea who the Memphis Grizzlies are right now. I don't think they know who they are right now. I think they've dealt with a lot of different stuff this year, including some injuries, losing some guys. I think losing Brandon Clark is big for them. Yeah. Adams has been out. You had the BS surrounding Josh. Shout out to that brother. Dylan Brooks. I mean, it's odd, man. So could they beat Memphis? I think they could. But I think the trajectory is pointing towards that now. If they get into a series with Phoenix, there's no way in hell they're winning. No. There's no way in hell. Denver, I think, would be tough as well.
I was literally about to ask this question to Jarrett. Jarrett, if we do get in the playoffs, who would you want to see first round then? Who would you really like? We can beat these guys in the first round.
Chris, I disagree. I think it's Denver. Yeah.
So the 8 seed. The 8 seed.
We got to talk about this, Five.
Yeah, just because we've played them so well. No matter who's on the court, no Zion. I mean, the game, it was January 24th. I watched in person from this, they compete against the Denver Nuggets really well. Hell, Herb had 18 last year in the fourth quarter, big dunk on Jokic. The style makes sense when you play against it. Now, could it happen? I think maybe the easier route would probably be the Kings, but I really like the Pelicans versus the Nuggets. I don't know why. I just feel like they feel comfortable with that team.
With or without Zion?
Both.
Oh, they played them really well with or without him.
They don't.
Shit, Brandon missed that last game when Herb missed Billy Hernangomez under the goal. They were without Brandon. I'll never forget that. They were without Brandon and Zion, right?
Yeah. CJ missed the jumper to possibly win it. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
Kennedy was crying. I'll never forget that game.
Why was Kennedy crying?
Because she wanted the team to win. I birthed a basketball player. What do you expect?
Hey, what a hooper. Ross, who would you like to see first round? Struggling here. Yep.
There we go. Kings, 100%. Kings got to prove it. For me, I need to see that team. I mean, that's a bunch of dudes that's never been in a playoff situation. They've never even really been in something resembling a play-in or playoff situation. I like our chances against the Kings, and I agree with Chris or whoever just said it. The Grizzlies are kind of a mess. They got bombed. I mean, their starting lineup got bombed today by the Bulls. Either of those teams, I like. Those are not sweeps by any stretch of the imagination. Those are close series all the way to the end.
Okay, Leah.
I'm with Five, man. The Nuggets put no fear in my heart. I think the Nuggets are Project Kool-Aid. I think they're sweet. I feel like I would love nothing more than to send the reigning MVP home in the first round again. Like that shit would make my day. I think the problem with the Kings for me is I don't think we can score with them. Like regardless of what Casey Hill says, like we can't come out and we just cannot.
Hey, but they've been
we
playing
can't trade
defense very well as of late.
Man, listen. De'Aaron Fox didn't play the last couple
That's true
times,
for about Fox.
and when he saw the Pels, bro, it's food. He sees food. I don't want to. Nah. The Pelicans don't want to see that, brother.
I'm good there, man. I'm good there. That's not for us. I think the Nuggets. I truly think we can knock the Nuggets off.
So the only team from I gotta get Chaz's point here, but the only team I haven't heard yet that y'all don't want to be matched up with is the Phoenix Suns, as Chris said.
Why would you?
I completely no, but what I'm saying though is like you're comfortable with everybody else though. It seems like y'all are comfortable with everybody else. Chaz, go ahead.
Yeah, there's only two teams I don't want to play, but it's like aside from that, I think Denver. I think you can beat Denver. I'm gonna say with Zion, but Denver. Shit, I don't know about Memphis, but maybe Memphis. I'm comfortable with everybody, but Phoenix and the Lakers. Everybody else I'm comfortable with.
So you'd only, from what it looks like, you'd only probably face the Lakers in a 7-8 matchup in which you can lose a game. So,
yeah, you probably avoid that. I'm just saying. I'm just speaking generally.
I could definitely see, man. I could see Pelicans at Lakers 7-8, and then getting the winner of the Timberwolves and OKC probably. Which is kind of scary. Like, Minnesota.
That means you saying that the Pelicans gonna lose that game.
Well, the Lakers game.
Yeah.
I mean, in LA against LeBron and Anthony Davis, it's a pretty tough.
Yeah, it's a tall order.
Matchup. That's a very tall order.
Look,
Ludo.
I just wanted to say this one thing. Like, I got looking at the schedule, man. I truly believe the Kings are gonna punt that game. I think the Grizz go punt that game. I think the Knicks. Are the Knicks seated already? Do they?
I looked at that. There's like a decent sized gap.
With them sitting Julius, they kind of like punting it, like on them.
Yeah, like they'll punt that game. The only team I really see, you possibly losing to in that stretch is the Timberwolves because they really have something to fight for. So, like,
it is the last game of the year.
Did the Kings punt tonight at home against the Spurs?
That's
did they punt that game? Because the whole starting team played and they lost to that G League Spurs team.
Yeah, it went OT.
Listen,
Spurs been looking kind of good, man. I ain't gonna lie.
Give me a break.
No, I'm talking.
Give me a break, Chaz. Come on.
No, I'm talking about the Spurs have had some good victories as of late. I don't mean they're good like they're a good team. I mean they've had like a couple good victories against good teams. I think they beat. Shit, who else did they beat? They did us a favor the other day. Didn't they beat Dallas or something like that? Yeah,
y'all are clowning, man. We get the Kings in the first round. That's a best case scenario. We should be celebrating. If we were the three and the Kings were the 6, would we? I don't think we'd still be having the same conversation.
Just beat us by like 20 points without Fox. Like what? People got ripped. No memories on this show. I kept this show as vanilla as possible. People memories is crazy, bro. Like, yo, the Kings just beat the shit out of the Pelicans without Fox.
That's not the point. That's not the point. But that's what I'm saying is you could go find those scenarios all throughout the year. That's not like it's about you're gonna have to now play me 7 times, 7 times potentially with Zion Williamson coming in possibly off the bench against like Trey Lyles guarding him. You talk about food.
I think they probably put Barnes on him.
So all right, even better. So that's what I'm saying. It starts to get a lot trickier in a 7-game series with our whole lineup.
I don't want to see that a team that wants to run like that, especially in a team like Sacramento. Fox is elite speed. They got runners and gunners and scorers. The guys that can give you 40, 30 piece here. You got Keegan Murray, an upstart shooter. You got defensive guys. Like, yo, they got pieces. They can get it how they want to get it. Pause. Like, but their ability to they're well coached. 2, like they understand what they want to do and they understand how they want to do it. So there's that. I think Denver as a point is like they've reached their ceiling. They're as good as they're gonna get. They may have some outliers right there where you might have Jamal Murray go for a 50 ball, whatever. That may happen, but you know what that team is. You know how they want to play. Sacramento is more of like a upstart. Like they could potentially just bust your ass with 4 4 straight games, and ain't nothing you could do about it.
And Sacramento's just going to be electric. I mean,
Oh yeah,
first postseason.
That's dope. That's dope for them. They went through a lot. Man, I wish they would have hired Trajan.
The wild card here is it's something that no one's going to be happy about. Is like these playoff series. A lot of times, especially out the gate, they come down to the game plan and coaching staffs, right? Like remember when the Pelicans played Portland? What was it 2017?
Swept
and everybody was like, man, Dame always kills the Pelicans, right? CJ, so on and so forth. And then game 1 happened, and the Pelicans defended CJ and Dame in ways that they hadn't done in any of the regular season matchups. And it won them the series. It didn't, what I'm saying? Like Portland didn't have a rebuttal for that. And most people picked Portland to win that series. So something similar happens like that. I mean, that's the wild card that that we're not as good as for any of these teams. It's gonna come down to what coaching staff is throwing a curveball at you that you're not expecting. In some of these cases, unless you are just overpowering someone with, I think, star talent and just have things that people can't respond to, like I think Phoenix is gonna put out there if Kevin Durant is there. Just I don't care what you game plan for. And they are who they are. Golden State, if they get Wiggins back, another example, even without him. But that's what I'm interested about the most in any of these conversations about these series. What's gonna happen? What kind of curveball is gonna be thrown out from any coaching staff that we're not expecting that could tilt the whole series?
Now, my only rebuttal to that is, do you trust this coaching staff to do so? Stan Van Gundy got on the Knucklehead podcast, and he was talking about how he would talk to coaches about possible things that he would need to adjust to from the other team. Like they had to come up with scenarios for the other team against him, and he wanted to know what they thought. Do you think that this team's doing that? No, they don't even make adjustments to what they do. So I don't know, Chris. Like I agree with you, right? We want to see what maybe a coaching staff will do, what curveball may happen, but I don't even know if this team's going to look forward to the possible adjustments that they'll need to make mid-game rather than previous game.
Lito,
I didn't like the Alvin Gentry led coaching staff either. I just want to throw that out there.
Hey, but
I mean, I wasn't a big fan of that staff either. Some of those guys are still here, so you know what I'm saying. Like
that's the problem.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll just leave that there. But I mean, good point though. I mean, we'll see. Look, when Zion gets back, if Zion gets back,
Is Zion getting back, Chris? Is he coming back? Is he coming back?
Yeah,
is he coming back?
Yeah,
that's a hell of a spot to put that him, Zion, and Brandon are two people that like you really can't even really put a person on the spot with them two. Like them dudes, like you just be like, last I heard he was.
Yeah.
That's all you can see.
I just saw him last week.
So close, bro. Like remember, right before that Atlanta Hawk game, he was supposed to be back like the next game or the game after that.
What was that date, Chris? Do you remember that date? Do you remember the date of
it was
before the
February 7th.
Yeah,
right. Because then you start like
7th.
never hearing anything. You're like, why haven't we heard anything? And
then it went completely left. So that's a real bad question. I had somebody chat right. I don't know, but
I just want to see him come back, man.
Chris, is Jose coming back?
He's not coming back.
No, he's out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jose in a boot now.
They show up why did he show up in a boot?
Did he have some other stuff? Because I thought that was weird. I didn't remember him looking like that, but he was in like a full-on boot up to the knee yesterday.
I was working with whoever Zion was working with when he had his setback.
Damn, y'all just set Chaz up for that.
That's probably look.
You gotta be better.
That's me. That's me. My bad.
No such thing.
Actually, is Lito's fault. Lito, it's your fault.
No such thing as a coincidence, man. I'm saying that's crazy. He was all right. Next thing you know. You know what I'm saying? He's like, damn, when you get in a wheelchair? Like, things happen.
Paul Pierce.
Presented by the Company Burger, located at 4600 Ferret Street. Let's hear from our friends at Company Burger. Company Burger is the official burger of Pro Pels Talk and Boot Crew Media. Located at 4600 Ferret Street, Company Burger has been locally owned and operated for 11 years. Grind the meat, Bake the buns, make the mayo, get the homemade tots. Company Burger uses Creekstone Farms prime beef to create the best burger in the city with milkshakes to go and a full bar. Company Burger is open every day besides Tuesday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Can't make it out? No worries, we have you covered. You can order online right now at thecompanyburger.com or check them out on the Toast or Uber Eats app. Company Burger, the official burger of Boot Crew Media.
Bake the buns.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Who wrote that script?
Yeah,
I was going to say, Adam at Company Burger wrote that script. I saw Lito's face. I wish he would have had that live. I wish
Shout
he
out,
would have
shout out
had
to Adam. That was spectacular.
grind the
Shout out to
meat,
Adam.
bake the buns, or whatever else.
Adam wrote that for you and did this.
Good luck.
Oh, always appreciate
You gonna take my money? I can write whatever I want.
Yeah, you gonna read whatever I put down.
That boy said, "Hey, Justin,
Grind the meat, bake the buns.
When we were making the video, man, you should have. Wow, it was bad. It wasn't good. It was tough. It took me about 15 or 20 takes. Does anybody make sure you like, comment, subscribe.
Larry Bird, come get your daughter.
Love to hear your thoughts
Headshot.
on what we got this week. Chaz, Lito, 5. Chris is not even the shot. Ross. Appreciate all y'all's interactions, and we will see y'all Tuesday night. National championship is tomorrow, so everybody is off in the NBA. Go Huskies. We will see y'all later.